Hello, my name is Cole Martinez. I'm from Granite City, Illinois. I'm 27 years old, and currently I am in missions with an organization called YWAM, and that stands for Youth with a Mission. Me and my wife, Nayeli, we are a part of YWAM Morelia, which is in Mexico, in the state of Michoacan. Before sharing with you about missions and what YWAM is, what YWAM Mexico is, all of that, I would just like to share with you a little bit of my story of growing up and just in general how I've come to where I am today. So growing up, I was introduced to God. I was more so I didn't have understanding of who God was. I didn't understand what his nature was, what his character was, what he was like. I kind of knew God as religion or church, you could say. I didn't know anything about that God was relational, that he wants to have a relationship with us, that he has created us as relational people and mankind in general. So I had the idea of God as being a religious thing, and I had really no idea of who he was. So that kind of played a big part in my life. So going into when I was a little bit older, teenage years, I went to school in Granite City, Coolidge Middle School, and then went to Granite City High School when I was about 14, I think. And I played sports, had a lot of friends, was very outgoing, very goofy, loved to be the center of attention. Just in general, I loved being around people, being relational with people in the funnest way possible. And over time, I had family members that were drug addicts or alcoholics, and they were living a lifestyle of alcoholism, drug addiction, in which we all know that lifestyle is very unhealthy and can teach young kids that that's cool or something like that. So I had a lot of influence that was from family members that were in that lifestyle, and eventually I started tasting and dabbling with things to start off, and eventually I started smoking marijuana. I think I was 12 years old the first time I did drugs. The first time I got drunk was when I was 14. And I liked it. I liked the way it felt. I liked the identity of you're the cool kid, or you know, just a part of what most of the world thinks is acceptable and cool, a part of the culture. So like I had said before, I played sports. I was athletic. I was known for playing baseball. I was known for the athlete, or however you want to say it, maybe a jock, something like that. And once I got into high school, I started really getting into drugs and really getting into getting intoxicated, drunk, however you want to say it. It became a part of me, and it was a slow progress, but once it started fully, I was doing it a lot, it really took off. It took off into a deep addiction that I couldn't stop myself, and it lasted for a long time. I had time periods in my life in high school that I would quit. It never lasted more than 6 months to a year. I would always go back to it. I would always run to it for comfort and for just that good feeling of outside of reality, not having to deal with things. So yeah, I was using it in a way that was like, it was my God, it was my idol. I like worshipped it. I didn't worship drugs and alcohol in a sense of like I was putting it on the altar and like bowing down to it and praying to it or talking to it, but in more of a sense of a way that it controlled me. It had authority over my life. It told me what to do. The addiction controlled me in so many ways that I didn't care who I hurt. I didn't care who I affected. I didn't care who I stole from. I was living a lifestyle that was selfish, and it was consumed in alcoholism and drugs. By the time I was probably a junior in high school, about 15, 16 years old, around there, I started being like known for like the druggie, the burnout, like the person that was like in another world, like drugged out. You know, I was known before for like playing sports and stuff like that, but like I believe that my identity was like going more towards like the druggie. So people viewed me in a bad way, a negative way. They thought I was stupid. They thought like I was just a normal drug addict, the same thing you see when a person is a drug addict or an alcoholic. So my addiction started getting so strong that I didn't care about sports, I didn't care about my family, I didn't care about anybody really but myself. Like I had friends, but we were all together for one reason, that was to get high, drink and have a good time. So that lifestyle really damaged my family, my mother, my stepfather, my siblings, in so many ways that I don't even know. What I do know and what I have seen was complete, like just destruction. I was destroying not only my life, but other people around me. So once I got out of high school, like I had abandoned sports. I had no vision for college. I had really no purpose. I was like, my purpose was to find drugs or the party and go and just be a part of it and have fun. So yeah, that was like the only thing I was really living for at that time. And the addiction just got worse and worse and worse over time. I started using harder drugs. I started using pills. So many other things like I had never thought I was going to get into, I started getting into. I had no control over it, just like I had said before. It was controlling me and telling me what to do. And I was always chasing the high. I was always chasing something new. And it wasn't working, and I was destroying myself faster and faster over time. So I was like bouncing back and forth from house to house with friends, and like I said, I had no purpose. I had no meaning in life. I still believed in God. I still believed that He was there, but I had no idea about who He was or anything or what He wants, anything like that. And there finally came a point where I was at like a rock bottom. My health was not in good shape. I wasn't taking care of myself. I had no job. I had no money, and I was without a home for a period of time. And my father, who used to be an addict, finally had gotten clean and had been clean off drugs and alcohol for a long period of time, and was really desiring to like be a part of my life and be a part of what I was going through, and he wanted to help me. And so he took me in, and he started taking care of me, and at that point, like I had nothing. my father did give me a house to live and food to eat and money on occasion, but like I felt empty. I felt like meaningless, and that's when God like really stepped into my life. He worked through my family. Most of my family is Christians, and he was drawing me and calling me to come and be a part of his kingdom and a relationship with him, which I had no idea about. And so I was at my rock bottom, and he showed like one act of love towards me, and it broke my whole worldview and my view of him, of what I thought he was. And he was a personal and caring God, which I had never knew. I never understood that, and he provided for me for one time for my health, with money and a job and much more, all in one moment, and my life was changed. And I started pursuing God and getting to know him and going around other believers that had wisdom to share and would teach me. And from there on, I started just taking off and going with God. And even then, like I still, my character wasn't the best. I wasn't the best person still, but God had welcomed me in and shown me who he was and revealed to me and through action. And like I said, I wasn't perfect. I had so many problems still. But it's amazing to know that God called me and saw me and wanted a relationship with me regardless of who I was at that moment. I believe that God saw an outcome. He saw what could come out of me, what I could be, and not what I was at that moment, which really, really was challenging to understand that a God that I had thought completely hated creation was nothing but just a dictator, you could say, was showing love to me. And this is seen in so many lives. This is seen in so many testimonies of people that are transformed by God's love, that is transformed by his truth and who he is. And that's really why I'm in missions, is because I want other people to know who God really is and not what the world says or anything. That's my goal. That's everybody's goal that is here and a part of YWAM. YWAM is a part of almost every nation, I believe, in the world, and our goal is to make God known and to really show his character, to live it, and not just talk, but to live. So, Youth with a Mission, or YWAM, is also an organization that does schoolings, teachings, like lecture phases, you could call them, where we have a time period of 3 to 6 months, sometimes even longer, of teaching about God, about missions, about strategies for missions, all types of stuff. We have a school here at YWAM called Discipleship Training School, and it is a primary school and introduction into missions and learning the foundations of Christianity and missions together. And that is a school that is 5 to 6 months long, and 3 months we have lecture phase where we have teachers from all over the world come and teach on subjects of the Bible, all types of different ones. There's so many. So after the 3-month lecture phase of learning and everything, we go out and do what is called outreach, and we go to foreign nations and teach and live what we were taught in the past 3 months in lecture phase. A day in outreach can be anything from being in a church and sharing testimonies, sharing something we've learned about God in the past 6 months. Anything. It can be working in communities, it can be helping build a house. I have been a part of Youth with a Mission for a little over 2 years, and I have been all throughout Mexico, many states, about I would say 3 or 4 different states, northern, southern, on the coast, everywhere. I've been to Costa Rica in Central America, I've been to El Salvador, and in the next month I will be going to Panama with a current discipleship training school to do outreach and to share. And like I had said before, our base and our location is in Mexico, in Morelia, and an average day on the base is we work, we paint, we do all types of stuff, maintenance, we clean, but a main thing we do is our discipleship training school. We run about 5 hours a day in the mornings into the afternoon, and yeah, so it varies on each day. On the weekends we usually like to recover, have family time, and yeah, just have a good time. My life before YWAM was a pretty normal life. I had a job, I had goals, and I chose YWAM because I wanted to have a deeper relationship with God. But I specifically chose Mexico because God had led me to that. He had spoke to me and told me a direction to take, and so I did that. I had an expectation that maybe like I was going to be sick a lot. I had heard that Mexico was, I guess, not the cleanest place, which I found out was not true. It's very clean. I think I've been sick one time, like really sick one time, my whole time being here in two years or so. So that was another thing that was really different than what I expected. And after like my time of being in Mexico the first time, I realized I did want to come back to Mexico, that I loved it here. It was not what I thought it was going to be. So I came back initially because God had really guided me and spoke to me that this is where I was called to be. This is where He was going to establish my life. Some of my favorite things about Mexico is, as you can imagine, the food, the culture. The culture is very, very loving and very it's much different than the States. I would put the States more of a category of like straightforward and even if it's rude. Mexico is more like a warm culture, like a family environment. Not that the States isn't a family environment, but it's very family oriented here, and they're very polite, they're very loving. You go into somebody's house, they'll cook a meal for you on the spot. So it's something that was super cool to see, and something that I love about the culture in Mexico. One thing I haven't mentioned is my wife is a Mexican citizen. She is from Mexico. She's from northern Mexico, a city called Ensenada. And it's amazing. We have two separate cultures completely. She is very, very much different than me, and it's been an amazing challenge in so many ways. And we grow so much together because we're so different.
Hi, my name is Nayeli Martinez. I'm Cole's wife. I'm from Ensenada, Baja California, Mexico. So I decided to stay in YWAM, Mexico because God said to me. But at first I was like, okay, I want to go back to Nepal, where I went for outreach on my DTS. and I wanted to work there because I really love it, and I know God has a call for me there, but I think it's not the time yet. So I stayed in YWAM, Mexico because God called me to prepare myself and to learn how to be a leader, to learn more about Him, to learn more about ministry, missions, and what it really means to be living in missions and living outside of your comfort zone or outside of your home. And I think it's a process that you just not go and do it. You have a process to learn, and that's the process that I'm here in YWAM Morelia. Like, that's why I stay here. Fears or excitements about visiting the States, I think I can have both, but I can relate more with excitement because it's a new place. I never been to the States, so it's a new place, and I heard and I have seen pictures that it's beautiful there. It's way too different from Mexico and other countries that I've been to. And yeah, I'm excited to see a new culture, like the way different from my culture in Mexico. Excitements on my first school, I reached my first school. I went to Nepal and India, and we spent there 4 weeks in Nepal and 5 weeks in India. It was my first time traveling or going out of the country. It was my first time flying. It was obviously scared because I have never experienced something new than just my city, but it was exciting to see something new, something like new people, new cultures, new beliefs. Everything was new, but it was like scared because it's not the most comfortable experience, and you have to live like that people lives, and it's way different from all cultures here in Mexico. And Nepal, I love it. It's kind of like Mexican culture, and it's incredible. The views and the mountains are super beautiful, and the culture is super warm. Like, they hug you and they prepare food all the time for you, and you just have to eat all the time because they prepare a lot of food, and it's great. And in India, it's more extreme culture. It's like heavier, and there's a lot of people, and it's chaos, and it's beautiful, the culture. They are super hospitals, and they feed you a lot too. And yeah, it's great. It was a really, really awesome experience. I learned and I grew so much, and I saw a different part of God in those cultures. So being married with an American, it's challenging. You learn something new. You learn to die to yourself, or what the things are used to. I always picture myself getting married with a Mexican. I never thought about getting married with an American. So it's definitely learn a new culture, because even though it's just one person, his customs and the way he do things, the way he communicates, it's way different than mine. And sometimes English is my second language, so it can be sometimes like difficult to understand ourselves with communications and misunderstandings all the time. So it's definitely you learning more than just getting to know a person, his culture, and all the things that he's used to, and he'll learn from my culture too. So it's challenging, but it's really great. I love it.